When you look at Florida State's big wins against rivals the last few years, you think about some incredible performances from defensive ends, whether it's Jermaine Johnson against Miami in 2021, Jared Verse at Florida last year. You think about what DeMarcus Walker did a few years ago against Miami and how there were just games that legendary defensive ends have gone off. I asked Pat Payton about that and wanted to get his take on, man, is there a game that you want that to happen for you more than another one, right? Open the year, Georgia Tech, one of the rivals, Clemson, whomever. And his answer surprised me a little bit. I thought it would be a different team than he said, but I think the reason that he was confident, which he's very confident, and you'll see the video here in just a minute, the reason that he's really confident in it, and the reason it keeps happening, is something that maybe you expect, maybe you don't, but I do think it's probably something that frustrates you. So let's talk about it. How many times did you watch Florida State last year in big moments of games early in the year, and you'd see Jared Verse or Pat Payton or Josh Farmer or Braden Fisk, you'd see him get subbed off. And whether that was a certain player put in, a certain reserve put in, and maybe Florida State would give up a big play there. Maybe they'd give up a run on the outside because Verse wasn't in. Maybe, the quarterback would have too much time because Fisk and Pat weren't in there, and they'd get a long completion. Pat was asked about that specifically, and the answer makes complete sense. I'm not going to tell you it's not going to frustrate you anymore seeing it, but maybe it'll at least justify it in your mind. I had several buddies that would text me like, what in the world is Fuller doing? But listen to why Florida State does that.
Especially with our great D-line rotation that we had, with all rotation with all positions. We had great rotation, great guys who can come in and be just as productive as you. Probably not get as many snaps as you, but can play at a high level just like you. That was a great addition to our team last year. We had great depth and unselfish guys who knew when it was just your time, your number to get called. You just got to get out there and make it happen.
Does it take a while to get used to that, though? Because, you'll be in a big game, in a big moment, and they'll take out you and Jared last year and put in Byron. And was that hard to...
It'd be like, you see what Coach JP and Coach Odell and Coach Novell had planned with Norm. Yes, we can be in first, second quarter a lot. But then it's going, especially the tough games, like the big games, we're going to need us for that fourth quarter too. So we got to keep them fresh in between the middle of the game. We can't just kill them all the way. Then the fourth quarter, we need a big play tie. That was a big thing with coming with us.
Certainly an interesting perspective. I think the right perspective. There were a lot of times where I think Florida State fans were frustrated with the defensive line rotation. Like, what in the world are we doing? We've got the best players in the game on that defensive line. Why are they not in? Why are they not playing? You got a first rounder on one side. You got what might be another first rounder that on the other side that you just heard talking right there. You had draft picks in the middle, like Fisk, and obviously Fabo was there. And I expect Farmer to get drafted this year. And so why was Florida State doing that? Well, they kept their guys fresh. And you think about the fourth quarters of games, specifically late in the year, but really down through the year. You think about the fourth quarter in that Clemson game. Obviously, late third quarter, you get the fumble return, but Clemson didn't score again in that fourth quarter. Why? The defensive line was so fresh. You think about the way that they were able to hold Miami down in that second half in that fourth quarter. I know they had the busted play touchdown, but that certainly went on the defensive line. You look at the way they held Florida and Louisville down, and you look at a lot of games, the way they held Duke down. I know they had an injured quarterback, but they weren't able to run or anything there. And the way that Florida State rotated their defensive line last year set them up for so much success. And when your big games are at the end of the year, you're the freshest then. You're the absolute most ready to go out and wreak havoc. And you look at Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and those guys doing it in Charlotte. You look at Verse going nuts against Florida. You look at, like I said, other guys that have done that recently. Jermaine Johnson against Miami. Again, another late game. I think that was the 10th game of the year. And it's something that, again, you're probably going to get frustrated by. Because on a big third down, they're going to take Pat Payton out. On a big second down, they're going to take Marvin Jones Jr. out. And you're going to get frustrated. And I'm going to get frustrated too. And we're going to text our friends and we're going to tweet about it. Why was he not in on this play? And then in the fourth quarter, when we absolutely shut the other team down, it's all going to kind of make sense. Now, what does this allow? It allows Florida State to save guys for bigger games, right? A big third down that you give up against Wake and then you end up winning the game 41-6 anyway, probably not a huge deal. A big third down that you give up to Boston College because you rotated defensive linemen and then you win that game 34-3 this year, whatever it's going to be. I don't know. Calling a big one. Not a big deal. You're not doing that on third down when you bring Clemson to town. You're not doing that on third down when you play against Miami. I want to play Pat's answer for you, but if you're watching this, do me a quick favor and just click that subscribe button really quickly. Getting up close, or maybe even by the time you see this video, have passed 17,000 subscribers and want to continue to push our way up to 20. So help us get there, and thank you guys for the support. All right, Pat's answer surprised me. Certainly wasn't what I expected. I mentioned Florida and Miami to him, and his answer kind of surprised me. So check it out.
The defensive end history at Florida State, certainly in the recent past, guys have had huge games against some of our rivals. Jared, Jermaine, against Miami, Florida, whomever. Clemson, if you had a game to pick for you to have one of those type of games, who you wanted against this year?
This year, I have to say, I always say Miami, but Clemson, because they coming too dope. It's going to be a very heated game because knowing Coach DJ came from there. Like that's probably going to be our most tense game this year, knowing we went into a heavy power game last year, overtime. So I feel like Clemson is one. I know my team is going to be looking for 11 to make a play, and I'm guaranteed I'm going to.
We'll start at the end. I guarantee I'm going to. I'm not trying to give a ton of bulletin board material out there for it, but I like it. I'm going to do this. Just watch me do it. It kind of feels like the Jalen Ramsey mindset going into that Miami game. I don't necessarily know that he said anything like that. Or maybe even the Jameis mindset going into the 2013 game. I'm going to be the best player out here, and you're going to regret the fact that I lined up tonight. And I like it. I like the confidence. Like, my teammates are going to need me. I'm going to do it. I guarantee it. I love the deeper meaning. He said, I always want to say Miami, right? Like, so he got his little shot in there. But it was interesting to me and pretty meaningful, I'd say, that his reasoning for wanting it to be Clemson was what he knew the game was going to mean. They come to Doak. It's DJ's old team. Dude has been teammates with DJ for 7 months now, 7 months. And spent a decent amount of time around him, I'm sure. But this is a guy that he is going to be teammates with for about a year, right? I think DJ committed on January 1st, if I'm remembering right. And DJ will probably be here through the end of December, beginning of January, depending on when Florida State's season ends, hopefully late January, and it's in a national title game. But guys that are going to be teammates for about a year. And his reasoning for wanting to go off that game was for his teammate. In our last video, in our video that popped off this morning, we talked about the culture. In every response these guys give, it breathes through. It's literally part of their DNA. It's part of the fabric of the organization of the program. I want Miami because they were trying to recruit me, or this happened, or the portal, or this, that, and the other. I want Florida because this, that, and the other. It's the end of the year, and that's going into draft time, and I want the scouts to. No. I want to go off against Clemson because I'm doing it for DJ. I don't know, man. Like, the narrative around Florida State's culture, the narrative around Florida, a bunch of quitters. They didn't play in the Orange Bowl. They did this, they did that. And that's the way this kid's answering. Dude has a chance to be a first-round draft pick, certainly day 1 or day 2. And his response is to think about his teammate who used to play there. Dude, that's going to be a hot game. That's going to be a heated rivalry. We are going to need it, and I guarantee I'm going to do it. Really, really cool stuff to me. And again, pointing back to the beginning of the video, it doesn't happen if Florida State doesn't rotate and play the way defensively on the line that they do. I get frustrated by it just like you do. But when Cal completes a big third down that we didn't want because Pat was off the field, or Darryl was off the field, or Josh was off the field, and we win that game by 40 anyway, just remember who's fresh when we take on Clemson. Remember who's fresh when we go up to Notre Dame. Remember who's fresh when Florida comes to town. Remember who's fresh even beyond that. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts. I loved getting a chance to connect with Pat Payton there. Again, we've got a ton of ACC kickoff coverage and just more interviews like this, more, kind of off-the-wall questions, fun questions. We actually got the chance to talk to both Pat and Josh and Coach Norvell about the snub, and their answers kind of surprised me there. You can check that video out by clicking on the screen right now. I appreciate you guys as always for tuning in. Go Noles.